The Helluva boss song All To You blew me away. In this video, I'll be doing a complete deep dive and analysis of the song in its entirety. Hope you guys enjoy. Here we are, hello Stolas, and without further ado, let's just begin. First thing, 2 seconds in, we obviously know that Stolas doesn't want to do this, right? It's quite obvious since he was just thrown on stage a few seconds before, but it also ties into the fact that it literally just happened, possibly even yesterday after the events of Full Moon. Therefore, to see that the animators and writers decided to include this addition, it truly shows how well versed they are in the story itself. I mean, they should be, they write and animate, but the fact that there's so much dedication gone into this, that they've added those little details, the minute ones that not the majority of people will notice, it's really intriguing to me personally. It's great to see when the team actually enjoys the work that they're putting in, because they add all these little things in to emphasize and show their love for this project they're working on. We can also see that Stolas is still broken from yesterday and this morning. He's not drunk here yet, therefore he's completely aware of his surroundings and the fact that he's sober. That's why when he gets out of this situation, he immediately turns to drink, like many people do, a very accurate and relatable thing for people who've gone through breakups. Actually humanizes his character in a weird way. That's why so many people relate to Stolas in this situation, when they know that they've done wrong in a relationship, but so has the other person, and they can't deal with it all at once, especially so soon, so they indulge in things that escape them from that reality, and allow them to let loose and think about it another time. But the thing is, the next time you think about it, it's going to hit a lot harder, because when you've been using an escape for so long, the anxiety's just been building and building behind the scenes, so when it fully hits when you're sober, or when you're off all that stuff, it hits a lot harder. Not only with the build-up, but in many cases, people have become dependent on those drugs, on that escape, whatever it may be. That also amplifies the effect afterwards. Honestly, great display. 2 seconds in.
I let you get too close. I let it go too far.
Now, Stolas is actually noticing his wrongdoings. Well, at this point, he views it as more of a him issue, but throughout this song, he starts to realize that it's not entirely his fault that he let Blitz get too close, because he wanted Blitz, and Blitz wanted him. Though Blitz in particular, the one who shouted and did all the rage stuff, and jumps to that immediately, especially seeing it at this particular party where, obviously, Blitz is going to be in the bad perspective, he's going to be the villain. He begins to realize that it's a shared fault in the situation. Both of them have their own problems, and they're both at fault, while also not being at fault, because you can't paint them both with one brush, but then again, it would be flawed to not paint them with anything in the first place. Therefore, you can't say they're not to blame, or they're both to blame. You definitely can't say that one or the other's to blame, in my opinion. So this is the beginning of Stolas' realization, with him accepting that he did some stuff wrong and thinking at this point in time that it's all him, but then he slowly realizes throughout the song that it's both of them. This sets it off. That's the kicker. You can see how he begins, at this point in time, hating himself for it, whereas at the end, he seems to say, mother effer to Blitz, because the crowd itself is hyping him up for hating Blitz. Though at a midpoint in the song, he knew it was both of them, so it went from just him to both to just Blitz. But then in retrospect, he will realize it's a both kind of deal. He was right when he thought of both.
Now I know, now I know, now I know exactly what you are.
And there it is, Stolas is realizing through what he's just said, when he thinks, I let you get too close, it's my fault, because I let you get too close. But then he thinks, wait a minute, that split-second decision to change it up and say, hey, this entire party is about hating Blitz. Now I know what you are. You're the monster. Kind of deflecting that a little bit. Also, this is kind of a weird frame to pause it on, because the hand is just there, floating, and then, what, it's over here? Okay. Alright, that's how animation works, guys. So yeah, he's understanding a little bit that Blitz is at fault in some areas. Now this is the line, as opposed to the last one which kicked off seeing himself as at fault. This particular line kicks off the, oh, it's Blitz's fault. And then those two thoughts merge together at some point. Now, to me, this is not Vortex and Verosika's first rodeo. This is kind of a rehearsed song to get whoever's grieving out of that grief state and into this happy, in quotes, hating Blitz state, because it's all his fault, blah, blah, blah. And it does seem that with Verosika's story in particular, that's what's broken her so badly. It was Blitz's fault. That's the sad thing, but what's even sadder is that it wasn't his own doing that caused him to be like this. It's only through Verosika's speech later, which I'll get to in another video, that led to his realization that he's a shitty person and he's got to fix it. But that doesn't mean that all the spotlight falls on him. It's just me showing light to the fact that, yeah, Blitz is going to change. He's going to try his best to change. And though it will be really hard, he's going to come out triumphant, isn't he? That's how the show's going to work. It's going to run and run until Blitz is happy and fulfilled. And then that'll be when, you know, it eventually ends, probably. We need more conflict. It won't get fixed this quickly. But just know that the fate of the two characters, Brandon Rogers said this on a podcast, the fate of the two characters are sealed, and it's a good fate. Not just Stolas. Every single character has its fate sealed, it seems. And most most of it, seeing off what Brandon said, will have a positive reception. So there's some reassurance for you. But as of now, I can just comment on what's going on. And that is that Veronica, I know we're not talking about her right now, but I will. What happened to her was purely Blitz's fault. It seems, as of now, on surface level from what we know, because Blitz didn't mention anything in that argument. He just accepted that he's a bad person. He never said, oh, but you did this, you did that. He just accepted it and realized it was him. So maybe that was the one-off. But obviously, the blame doesn't go entirely on him. He's been completely blissfully unaware that this has been a problem. He's just seen it as who he is. Doesn't want to get too close to people because he's scared. And he does want to change. So no, ignoring what I just said, he did know that it was a negative thing because it was negatively affecting him, because he would have realized I wanted to get closer to someone, but I just can't. My body won't let me. My brain won't let me. My mind is just racing with thoughts. But then to go to this party and see how people are coping with it and how individuals there are helping others get through the grief that he caused, it proves not only that they can get out of their saddened state, but also to Blitz, when he sees that, he thinks they're changing because of my actions. There is support out there that can help me. Why don't I try and change? That means there is a possibility that I can change, and there'll be people out there who will support me in that. And that's what leads to his realization later on, but obviously another video. And there it is, Stolas is thinking, he comes to this realization that may or may not be right, which we know is kind of wrong, that Blitz, quote-unquote, never cared, therefore it doesn't mean anything at all. So to him now, he's kind of got a bit of closure, being like, well, it didn't matter anyway, because he didn't want to get close in the first place. What's the point in crying about it? That's what Veronica and everyone here wants him to think, but then he second-guesses himself, because obviously you can't just be fully sure off of that. Realizations, you have to understand them a little bit. When they happen, you can't just change straight away. If you realize something, it'll take you a bit for you to process those emotions. But Stolas doesn't have that time right now, so he just has to recede back. He has that realization moment, but then has to recede back into his comfort zone, where he still thinks it's all about him and all the faults that he's done. And the positivity is all on Blitz, but obviously, throughout this song, he learns and develops and realizes that it's not all him. Though, let's be honest here, it is a lot of him, as I explained in my full moon analysis, just so you know that I'm not picking any sides in this situation, if that makes sense. This here reinforces it into his mind, yet he still chooses not to believe it until near the end. But if you look to the left and the right, Veronica and Vortex are smiling. It definitely doesn't help that they're an influence on Stolas right now. He feels the need to conform to the crowd, to the two people next to him who are very important. One being a famous pop star, one being a famous pop star, the other being a famous pop star's bodyguard. They're bound to have influence, and the influence on the crowd as well, which then leads to more conformity. So these thoughts now, that aren't entirely true, because they're just seeing Blitz in the negative light, and Stolas is seeing him in the positive, we need to have a mix, because it is a mix. It's a mix of both. So to see how Stolas' perception warps and changes throughout the song is insanely good. Jeez. These guys are just, they are good, aren't they? They're really amazing. Everyone on the team, dude, I cannot applaud you enough. Still smiling. They're a huge influence on him because he was nervous coming up, therefore he's going to say what the crowd wants to hear. But through that, it actually changes his mind. It wires it a little bit differently. So he mentally comes out a little bit different as to when he went in with it. Though Veronica has had a bad experience, she's still assuming that Blitz can't change, that he's horrible to everyone, when it could be just as possible that Blitz uses that specific language and tone towards her, seeing as she's a part of his past that he wants to forget. That's equally as possible as him being shitty to everyone. So Veronica obviously is at a bit of fault. Since have you ever watched a Darman? Don't be so quick to assume. He just as well could have changed and it broke Stolas' heart because they broke up, not for any other reason. So to see her assuming that immediately off the bat, on the other hand, shows how much Blitz actually pained her. Scarred her so much that she's hellbent of warping everyone she comes across his perception of Blitz. That's how much she was affected by him. But obviously, won't speak many words as for now. Stay tuned. See how Blitz is mesmerized about the fact that someone's up on stage singing about him. He feels like he needs to listen. This is so out of the ordinary. He never hears Stolas sing. I don't think even once he's heard him sing. Therefore, he notices, because Blitz is smart, that something's not right, and that leads to him knowing that there's some serious emotional stuff that's going to appear in this musical number. Also, hold the phone. Why do those two kind of remind me of Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy? Kind of look similar. I mean, they could be. Could be a reference. Anyway. Now Stolas has said it, and that's kind of the big thing. You won't think so, but now it's as if he's agreeing with it. And the fact that Blitz has just got up to the stage and that's the first thing that he hears is a mother effer, that shows that the direction of this scene ties into the emotion as well. It's so well orchestrated that he appears through that scene, Blitz shows up, and then the immediate line that is said when he comes to the front is that. It hits him a lot harder because that's all he hears. Because that's all he's ever heard in this life his entire time. Now this is the bit where Stolas begins to develop a little bit more. This setup is very Stolas themed, as it should be. The astrology, the theatrical stage, and the waving curtains. Though this song in particularly is a departure from what he usually sings in the show, which is very theatrical, musical-esque, quite dramatic, this visual setting is a callback to that. It's him singing in that same environment, that cozy, comforting, royal environment, but in a very different, and what would be viewed as obscene by the regular Goetia. It's a really interesting detail, and also the actual setting of your typical college party you'd see in media. This scene completely contrasts that. It's the opposite of the actual venue where this is taking place. I let you go too deep. Now I know there's one thing I can't keep. Stolas is saying that he let Blitz go too deep, that he toyed around with Blitz's emotions so much and twisted him that it forced him to dig himself into a hole, and the hole is so deep now that he can't just get out that easily with a simple confession like in Full Moon. That's like if someone dug an actual hole, and then to get him out you provided them with ladders. They still need to set the ladders up themselves. You can't do it from all the way up there, can you? You can just chuck them down. Blitz needs time to set up those ladders, process his emotions, ensure that they're stable, that being Blitz's view, drive, and determination, and security in the fact that if he climbs up these ladders to get out of the hole, out of the rut, that he will be okay by the time he's out of it. So once they're set up and secure, it takes time to climb up those ladders, which in the sense of the show is the process of him slowly improving himself, starting with this episode when he talks to Veronica. That realization moment is just the beginning. Like I said, he needs time. Just like Stolas, he needs time to process those emotions. And luckily, he walked out and he went home. Therefore, he has that time. Stolas didn't. He was just rushed into it, being expected to accept it and just conform. But Blitz has had that realization and can go and sleep on it and think about it more without any conformity or immediate push to be perfect straight away. He has time, plenty of time. Before I notice the symbolism of this, I also want to say that he does have time, literally, but when he sees Stolas enjoying his time with that demon later on, it instills a sense of urgency within him. Therefore, there is a chance that he might rush to become better, and therefore he won't give himself the time and won't grow in the way that he needs to. It'll just be temporary, and temporary growth is never good. You'd rather it be gradual and long-term than just a spike and then a spike straight back down. Things take time, but this sense of urgency that he gets later on is going to lead to some terrible stuff, isn't it, really? But then we have the symbolism here. I will scroll back a little bit and let it play one final time. He says that he keeps on waiting, which is true. Every single full moon, that's what that is. It's the days and the nights. It's the days going by that he keeps on waiting for Blitz to get close to him, for him to want him fully. Stolas thinks that Blitz doesn't want him, but really, they both want the same thing in different ways. Blitz wants to feel wanted by being chased for, which he does get given to by Stolas, who chases him and constantly comes back all the time. Stolas wants to feel wanted in a love sense, and he kind of is, but he's not aware of it, and neither is the person who is. Therefore, there's no knowledge of that, and things can't grow because no one's realized yet. Can I also say that the scene itself is just amazing? The shots in this show are, jeez, they are good. Trust me, they are good. What can I say? I'm a sucker for Helluva, boss. What can I say? Waiting to want you less than I do, and I do, oh I do, yes I still do want you. So after what I just said, which were my thoughts and my opinions, he gives a completely different reason for waiting. He's waiting, as the days go by, for the time where he doesn't want him anymore. He doesn't want Blitz. That day will never come because he'll constantly want him, no matter how much. We know how the show's gonna work. He's definitely never gonna stop wanting him. Hell, there's even a possibility that he gets in a relationship, but the show's gonna write it so that eventually it'll come out fine. But we're just gonna ignore the writing stuff for now, and ignore the fact we know the fates and all that, and just focus on the now, the here, the now, the most important part, what's going on at this moment, and I've just explained it. Stolas is waiting and waiting until he doesn't want Blitz anymore. But really, what I think, in my opinion, is actually happening is he's waiting for Blitz to want him. Because if you think about it, he's thinking, I don't want to want Blitz anymore. Why can I just not want him? I'm waiting to not want Blitz. But he still does. But if Blitz came and wanted him, he would realize then that he never wanted to not want Blitz. He just wanted Blitz to want him this whole time. He was so mistaken. Thoroughly mistaken. And he still is in this part of the song because he's not had that realization. A lot of this stems from not having that moment moment of knowing. That moment where someone shakes you up and tells you and says, listen, you like him. Stop running away from it. Everyone just insinuates to it and Blitz just shrugs it off. No one fully tells him. Or Stolas. No one's there for him. If you think about it, Stolas has less than Blitz. He has no friends. His family hates him. His daughter is, you know, complicated. Stolas literally has no one. But we don't get to see that side of him. He does say that he's alone and cry about it, which is fine because the little that we do see of it is completely valid. If you feel a certain way, you're free to feel that way. As long as it doesn't harm anyone else. If you're sad, you can be sad and you can cry. Whatever you think will make it better for you. If you know what's best for you, do it. If you don't, do whatever you think's best, even if it's not, because it's way better than doing nothing. Obviously, I wouldn't advocate for alcohol, but in some situations, it's viewed as needed by other people. So at that point in time, if I'm not there to tell them that alcohol's bad for them, would I rather them sit with that negativity? It's a mixed bag. Though it could help them process, at that point in time, one thing I'd recommend is just sleep on it. And then when you're in a better headspace, think about it. But then drinking and indulging is a way to get yourself in a completely opposite mindset where you're so dependent on this escape that you don't think about the thoughts. Best thing to do is know the thoughts are there, notice them, sleep on it, and when you're in a better headspace without anything interfering with it, instead of the natural ability to sleep, then you can think about it. Something that's natural, those are the kind of things, the natural things that are built into the nature of a being. They're the things. Don't do too much of it though. Don't sleep too much, don't eat too much, and know what's good for you. But obviously, when you're not thinking rationally, you'll do anything. So as long as you do the best thing that you can do, even if it does harm you in a way, as long as you know that that's the best option at this point. If you think, right, I just don't drink. I know it's bad, just don't drink, just go to sleep. It doesn't matter if you lie in, because the other option would have given you greater consequences. So whatever's best for you in that situation, try to think with all your might for the best that you can think of. That's all you can do is your best. So if your best is a bad decision, then so be it. It could have been worse. We can still heal. One thing your best isn't and never will be is, sorry, trigger for this. What your best will never be in any situation, your best decision, if you think about it really long and hard, it will never be to end it. Never, ever, and I can't emphasize that to you enough. Please don't. Like I said, just do whatever you think's best in that situation. Try and deal with it however you can.
But maybe it's all on me for missing every sign and every glance and every turn.
Can I just say, before we get into this, oh my goodness, not only the visuals are phenomenal, they always are on the show, but what did actually blow me away, because it was brand new before, obviously we've seen the visuals warp and move and have all these cool tricks previously, but we've never seen this side of Bryce's voice. It slaps. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I can't tell you, this is so good. How many times I listened to this song before I started recording? I had it on loop. I wanted to get every single bit out of it that I could while I was privately analyzing the lyrics, getting ready for this video. I just couldn't stop listening to it. I'd zone out and I'd stop analyzing the lyrics because I was listening to the song itself. I was just so engaged by it. Wow, Bryce, you are a phenomenal actor, and from what I've seen, a phenomenal person and quite funny. So sorry, the Bryce Pinkham Simps here. Okay, yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, now Stolas is saying to himself that it's his fault again because he never noticed those little signs. And what did I say? What did I say last time? I said that Stolas never gave enough signs personally himself, and he never noticed with his observant mind the signs that Blitz gave. And here, in these exact scenes, we can see over and over the exact ways that it played out in Stolas' head from his vision, things that genuinely happened, not made up, because these instances happened in real time in the show at some point, so we know that it's canon, and these are things that he's actually seen. We can see that Stolas saw that and witnessed Blitz's behavior, but chose to ignore it and just shrug it off. But if he sat down and really thought about it, he'd think, Blitz isn't comfortable. But then that would also lead to another complex where you would think that it's him all the time, when it clearly isn't. Yes, Stolas, you did ignore those signs, but listen, buddy, don't sweat it so much. You made a mistake and you've owned up to it. There's nothing you could have done to change the past, so just try and help now in the future. And have your own say. When you're sober, go to Blitz and apologize to him. Because even though Blitz can be a terrible person, at the end of the day, you know that you made a mistake as well. And you never apologized in Full Moon. You just said and explained your own feelings and walked off. You never said sorry. Now there it is, Stolas defenders. I'm saying that it's neither and both. Just like I've said this entire time, Stolas needs to apologize to Blitz. He needs to apologize, saying, I never noticed the signs, I'm so sorry, I should have noticed them, I should have been more observant, but now I can move on because I've had my closure with my deals. It doesn't matter whether Blitz responds or not. Blitz could just shout at him or whatever, but as long as Stolas got that off his chest, that's the most important thing to him and for him at this moment in time. It's for him to own up, even though it wasn't entirely his fault. Just own up and accept your own failures. Don't have that mindset where it's, I'm not going to say anything if you don't. I'm not going to apologize to you if you don't say anything to me. It's completely and utterly flawed. It doesn't matter who or who isn't in the wrong. If you've done something something wrong, own up to it and apologize. Even if that person's done so much more, you've still got to own up to yourself first before you can say anything about the other person. But then that leads me to Blitz, which I will elaborate on in great detail in the Veronica video when they had their speech, and in that scene where Stolitz had that little scene together, drunken. But Blitz also needs to apologize. Of course he does. That's just a given at this point. Blitz has done terrible things, and even this, what Stolitz is talking about, the signs that he never noticed. Blitz has given him signs, but never fully showed it and said anything. So there's a Blitz fault there. If Blitz felt comfortable with Stolitz, which we know he wasn't really, until Full Moon, where he was actually excited to see him because it was a thrill away from all the negativity, away from the hate, a way to lose himself in it, as he says in When I See Him. He began to look forward to their arrangements, seeing it as a kind of comfort zone because it gets away from all the negativity. But previously, before that, he wasn't actually comfortable, and even by then, he wasn't comfortable with Stolas, he was comfortable with the situation. So whenever Stolas showed up outside of that, or even in the same room after his mind had cleared, and he was back to reality again, he wouldn't be comfortable around Stolas. It's specifically the situation that made him comfortable. It's a temporary comfort zone. It's not one that's always around him at all times, where he can just recede back into it. It's one that's very temporary, and even not moving in that comfort zone for a while would just make it dissipate. Therefore, seeing how Stolas is comfortable with Blitz, and seeing how Blitz doesn't respond to that, and responds with signs, it shows that he's not yet comfortable enough, and probably never would be because he doesn't want to get emotional, to open up to Stolas and explain how he truly feels about it. It's a real mixed bag, and Blitz is, honestly, in my opinion, because he's the main character, way more complex than Stolas is. Simply for that reason, though. There's still a lot to say about Stolas, because I'm yapping about him for however long now. And see there how Vortex and Veronica are attempting to influence Stolas, and they actually do. It's that voice constantly in his head at all times. It's their two voices from both sides, in the back of his head, the front, the side, everywhere. From every angle, he's getting these voices. Even through the visuals, what he sees the audience cheering him on for hating on Blitz and all the horrible stuff that he's done. And that's more conformity, because he feels pressured, seeing as he doesn't have many friends to begin with, to appeal to everyone that wants to hear what he has to say. But after that, no one's interested. We see when he walks in, no one's interested. Why would they bother to go talk to him afterwards? They've had that thrill moment of hearing all the bad stuff that he's done, like, oh, Blitz is still that guy, always doing stuff. Literally yesterday, he's still done this, and his ex is talking about it. That's crazy. Let's hate on Blitz some more. But after that, Stolas has to go find his own friends, and he's not very good with that. He never had friends when he was younger. He was forced into a friendship by his father, which he wanted, and he enjoyed, but he was still forced into it because he couldn't do it himself. Though he did seem very interesting, just not very appealing to the average Joe.
Maybe there's something here for us to glean, for you to teach and me to try to learn.
Now, obviously, they're influencing him again in the background, but Stolas is attempting to learn more about Blitz. He's saying that he wants to learn. He wants to dig deep into what Blitz's problems are. He wants to be there as a shoulder to cry on. Because if someone's there, crying on your shoulder, willing to open up to you, it shows that they want you and they're comfortable with you. And that's what Stolas wants. He wants to feel wanted. And being that shoulder to cry on is a form of want, because that person wants you and trusts you to handle these emotions and take them like a champ. So Stolas is saying that he really wants to know Blitz. He wants to know all the bad stuff. He wants to listen and he wants to help. As long as Blitz wants him, it doesn't concern him what it is, as long as it's genuine. As long as it's genuine want, no matter the topic, whether it's the most minimal thing or the largest, most emotional, most soul-crushing, as long as he can be there to support and listen, that's all he wants. See how when Stolas touches that picture, that frame, it begins to crack and shatter. That's very symbolic of the fact that when he got so close to Blitz and touched him, which is obviously not literally, but touched him as in touched his heart, figuratively, it shattered him. It shattered his soul because he's never experienced that before. True love. Obviously, he had with Veronica. Obviously, there was that from Veronica and possibly other people, but as soon as they got too close and Blitz started to find feelings, he just left it and just ran off. He shattered, the mask slipped, he had to run. There was, in his perception, no other option. It should just shatter, run away, get out of that person's life, because he thinks that he doesn't deserve anyone to love and to care about. Which, do I have to say at this point, that ain't true. And it never will be for him. Though the thought is still there, that he's too complex and horrible to love and change. He's too far gone to be changed in any way. It's sad to see how Blitz thinks, and also how Stolas thinks, because he thinks it's all his fault. And though it's okay to be open to learning and all that, viewing himself as the problem constantly is just a recipe for disaster. Stolas is constantly questioning over and over. He's getting so unbelievably overwhelmed that it's crushing him inside and it's breaking it all, shattering his soul. Not just Blitz, how his mask and his entire personality shatters when people get too close. This now, thinking about that moment, thinking about all these other different moments and all the ways that he shatters, it in the process shatters Stolas. So the chain reaction and the effects from this and the magnitude of all these moments in retrospect come to him, and he realizes, he's like, oh, okay, this was this bad, I missed this out, and now he thinks that there's nothing left, there's no hope. He's questioning himself as if it's his fault, and though it is partly his fault, he's got to accept the fact that it's not all him. All the weight can't be put on him, but everyone does that. Even Blitz is doing that. Blitz thinks it's all his fault, like I said. He doesn't feel deserving of anyone else's love. It's really upsetting. See how he erupts into flames? It's getting too much for him. He'll literally explode if things go on any longer, and he keeps questioning. Stolas is obviously an overthinker. So is Blitz. They're both overthinkers. They have so much in common, yet they're so far apart, but so physically together. Isn't that weird? They themselves have so much in common. All the problems that they have are pretty common. Even down to the childhood trauma is pretty similar with neglect. To see that for all this time they were so close to each other physically, but so far away mentally, that now the physical's gone, it's disappeared to the place where the mental is. All these things that they have in common, all the problems, and all the similarities they have literally as well. There's definitely some things that they have in common with each other outside of that. But now all the physical and the mental stuff, the stuff that you can actually see and perceive as a direct way to contact and connect with someone on a mental level or a physical level, now that's gone, there's no hope, and in my opinion, you need both to make a loving relationship work a lot of the time. Obviously it varies from person to person, but the general consensus is, you need to be mentally close, and by that I mean mentally you think of each other very highly, but not in a toxic way like how Blitz sees Stolas, in a way where it's like, oh, this person is good and I enjoy their company, but also the physical, because the physical ties into it. And I am giving it in a very general kind of way, because I know it can change and vary, obviously all the time it varies, but I am saying for one of those stereotypical, sorry to use that word, I know, I'm trying to get my point across, but in that very stereotypical way, having a mental connection, thinking highly of each other, enjoying each other's company in the mind, and thinking, I like this person, I want to be around this person more. It's also the physical stuff that ties in, such as the touching, the getting close, and obviously the kind of stuff that Blitz and Stolas do. It's all a form of connection, but having one without the other, it can be really hard for the majority of people to deal with. And this show honestly does an amazing job of conveying that. The amount of emotion that's put into every scene, and the craft and the architecture, every single part of it, the way that it's crafted and brought together is perfect. That's my opinion, of course. You're completely entitled to yours, but for me, this show's perfect, because I don't see it for what's wrong with it. I don't even have Twitter, so I can't see all the drama. All I see is the show, what I see and what I take from it, and how my mind interprets those scenes. Therefore, I have no bias. I don't see the negativity. Maybe I am a bit biased on the positivity, but really, I don't go and speak to outside sources about the positive stuff. I do watch some reviews from time to time, but the way I view it is entirely positive, which you yourself are entitled to view as a bias. But I personally don't think it is, because I think positivity is just good anyway. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys disagree, please let me know. Just please do it in a kind manner. I know you might be mad at me, but like, I don't need to be shouted at for it. Just give some criticism, try and be polite. It's better for everyone. I want the average viewer to scroll down to the comment section and just see positivity, and any critiques that they see are quite well done and thought out, just so it doesn't clutter up the comment section with, oh my god, you're an idiot. How dare you? Try and keep it civilized, guys. Come on, we're all humans. See how his face completely drops. He's absolutely blasting his heart out into this song, repeating the other stuff, repeating, obviously it's a chorus, it's a song, blah, 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 but there's still the fact that he's repeating it over and over and getting it ingrained into his head. But then Veronica and Vortex jump in and ask him a question. Well, did it ever matter? Just to double check, they want to make sure that he replies with what they want to hear. And he does, but see how his face is like that? He's so unsure of it. Stolas is incredibly unsure of whether what he's saying is what he actually thinks, and it's not, is it? Because he still has that faith in Blitz, but no one else here does, so that's where the conformity is fully fledged and in action. He took all the blame in the beginning, and then in the middle, he noticed a bit of Blitz's faults and a bit of his own, but then after being reassured by everyone here, particularly those two, he's just decided to completely switch it up and just be like, okay, just drop the me stuff then. No one wants to hear it. No one's interested in hearing about what I have to say about myself. They're only interested about what I have to say about Blitz, because that's all they're here for. They're here for the Blitz hate. Like I said, no one cares when he sits down. Apart from obviously that one guy who comes and shows interest, no one else is there praising him and trying to get to know him. They only praise him for the song and then just walk off. Everyone else here is pouring their heart into what they're doing and having fun with it too. So looking on the bright side of things, it is a way to enjoy yourself. And everyone in the crowd, even the people in the background performing the song who were smiling, the drummer here, the guitarist, Veronica on the backup vocals. I don't know about Vortex, maybe he's an ex of Blitz, we don't know. Doesn't seem like it though, but you never know what could have happened. This song is another way to cope with their emotions. It shows that they're not alone. This song reinforces that this is still happening and there's still more people, more and more, who are having to deal with this trauma and this stress. So having that sense of community is what keeps them all together. That's why they're so happy. Stolas can sing about this in a very heartfelt manner, and it hits them so incredibly deeply, and now they're all smiling and happy thinking like, this hits me. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling when you see something, and you just go, wow, I feel known, I feel seen and accepted. That's that feeling that they're all getting right now, is that feeling of acceptance, of being seen and noticed, that there's people like them in the world. Calling back to Has Been, they're all losers. Because of this particular situation, they view themselves as losers. And they are, because everyone is, but they view themselves as lesser than others. But when they see everyone here who also thinks the same way, it drags them in, and they realise it's not too bad. It's not as bad as they think. So it is a positive for the people trying to grieve and get through it in a positive light. That's why we shouldn't be so quick to assume that it's all bad. Because at the end of the day, Veronica's doing it for the right reasons. It's just the execution that's a bit off, seeing as she assumes that every single breakup Blitz has is negative. Look at Blitz. He's completely broken. He's realized now. He's so upset. But then as soon as he approaches Stolas, he's drunk, and that kind of puts him out of this mood. This is another realization moment. This is the first of many in this episode. Look at how sad he is. How broken Blitz is. It's so unfortunate, but it's needed. It's absolutely needed. Poor Blitz. That obviously doesn't ignore his actions, nor does it give him more support over Stolas. All of that, blah, 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 the fine print. But here he's realizing how badly his actions affect others. Because he walked past people in the party when he just had that conversation with Veronica. He's walking out in sorrow, and as he's walking out, he sees all these people crying and wailing, absolutely depressed, and he'll walk past and think, I've not seen them for years, I've not spoken to them for years, why are they still upset? And then he realizes then, this is the effect that I have. My actions have consequences, and the consequences can last for as long as what's perceived as needed. That's the moment where he's like, oh, this whole thing, I have done something wrong, and he wants to say sorry now. So both of them now, Stolas, both the two characters are only seeing their own faults at this point. Regardless of what Stolas is saying, regardless of what Blitz is saying, it's all on the inside. This is Blitz realizing that his actions have consequences, and it gives him that thought of, I'm the problem again. I need to apologize. Stolas is up there. He's having a complex thinking, is it me? Is it Blitz? Is it both of us? But if you call back to the start of the song, he blamed himself, and now he's blaming Blitz. It's like the opposite. At the beginning, Blitz blamed Stolas for what happened, saying that he was never good enough. And Stolas did blame himself, and now Blitz is blaming himself, and Stolas is blaming him. But obviously it's shades of grey, because Stolas has this complex in his head. Therefore, at face value, the general consensus is, it's flipped completely on its head. Though if you look deeper, there are some differences, but overall it is symbolic of the fact. Now he's hiding his face. He hides his face because he thinks, no one wants to see me. I'm a monster. I'm a waste of time, good for nothing monster. That's what he's thinking right now. I need to get out of here. I need to go away. But then he has that moment and he's like, I need to talk to Stolas. There's no way. I see him walking off on his own. I might as well go talk to him. But other than that, he probably would have walked out because he can't face it. But then he decided that split second, I have to face it. I have to go and talk to Stolas and say sorry. And it's a really big moment for him. If Stolas hadn't done this, it wouldn't have come as quickly. So thank you to Stolas for this amazing song, not only from a musical sense, but also from a lore and character perspective, because this is Blitz's first awakening. Well done to everyone. The team is amazing on the show. You have them pipes, go ahead. Use them. There he is breaking, that mask is slipping, it's dropping, it's shattering, just like the picture. The same way Blitz is shattering, and his personality, his ego is taking this massive hit, and there's cracks in it. It's breaking. Slowly, it's getting there. He needs to express himself at some point, and not just through shouting. He needs to actually genuinely get upset with someone. And he really gets close to that in this episode with Veronica, and possibly would have with Stolas if that guy didn't show up. See the crowd support there. The crowd support is just enforcing the fact that Stolas has to keep singing about Blitz and his downfall. This bit. Notice how Blitz has a heart on his head. That is the enjoyment. That's what Stolas sees. I think this is through Stolas' eyes, because Stolas is seeing Blitz and he sees a love heart on his head, which is Stolas looking at him. because if Blitz was looking at Stolas, there would probably be a love heart on his head too. But since there's a love heart on Blitz's head, it's quite obvious there that it is Stolas looking at him, because when he looks at him, he just sees love. He just sees love and acceptance and happiness at that point in time. And then look at this.
The mother.
That line, the broken line, and Blitz absolutely in peril, terrified. It's absolutely horrible to see them both break so badly in this song, but then look at the way that when this time he knew it had to happen, Stolas pulls away. And Blitz looks back with that broken heart. Now, Stolas views Blitz and looks at him. He just sees a broken heart. He sees, he's broken, I'm broken. We have to end this now. And he yanks away. He pulls away, and the confusion in Blitz's eyes, because we see that last episode. Blitz was confused and didn't see it as real, because Stolas pulled away and said, listen, we can't do this anymore. He was the one who took action. Though he's at fault, he was the one who took action first. And then Blitz was scared, worried. This is him. Just the eyes, you can see that he's terrified. Just like he was in that episode, he's terrified of not being enough. And then the mask is back there. That's when he puts the mask back on and starts walking out like there's just nothing. There's no reason to be upset. Doesn't matter. It doesn't affect him. Of course it doesn't. Obviously, yes it does. Because look at him now. And what else to say but an absolutely amazing musical number. Oh my goodness. Wow. The team did phenomenal on this one. I hope you guys on the team are all doing well, because we need more of this, because you guys are absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. But anyway, that's enough now. I'm going to put my Blitz mask back on and pretend like I don't have emotions, and say that this is a good time to end this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Click a video on screen that best suits you. The one on the right was by YouTube just for you, and the one on the left is my most recent video. You can't make sense of what I said, neither can I. Just click one of the links. It'll work. And I'll see you guys later. Stay positive. Goodbye.